Today, I'm going to show you how to use a CI/CD pipeline to automatically deploy changes to your S3 static website. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Alex Brooks, and this is part 2 of a 2-part series where I show you how to deploy a static website as a digital resume or a portfolio website, and then make those changes automatically using a CI/CD pipeline using GitHub and AWS. So without wasting any more time, let's get into it. Okay, so as I mentioned in video number 1, this series assumes you already have a GitHub and AWS account. So once you log into your AWS and GitHub account, we'll get started. From the dashboard in GitHub, go ahead and create a new repository. Name it whatever you want, something similar to your website name. We'll make it private. We'll create the repository. Go into your settings, click developer settings, go to your personal access tokens, click tokens classic. Generate new token. Make sure you're generating the new token classic, not the beta. Give it a note such as what you're using it for. You can set the expiration for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever you want, or no expiration. I usually recommend rotating your personal access token every 30 days. That way it keeps your account secure and there's no unauthorized changes. I'll show you why we need a personal access token here in just a second. For now, go ahead and select all repo options and scroll all the way to the bottom and generate token. Go ahead and copy your newly generated personal access token and then navigate over to your terminal window. Once you have your personal access token copied, head on over to your terminal window and navigate into wherever your website files are located. Once you're navigated into your local directory, type ls and press enter. This way you can make sure that you see all of your website files. What we're going to do now is initialize git by typing git, and it's going to initialize an empty Git repository. Now what we want to do is add a remote URL to the GitHub repository. We're going to type git remote add origin. Then we'll type https:// the personal access token that we just copied at github.com / our username / the actual repository name, which is awesomewebsite.git. Press enter, and that should have added the remote URL to our GitHub repository. Now what we want to do is create a buildspec.yaml. This tells CodeBuild the commands to deploy our website to our S3 buckets and clear the cache. So what we want to do is type touch buildspec.yaml. That's going to create our buildspec.yaml in the local repository. Now what we want to do is edit the buildspec.yaml, so you can go to my Google Drive link and then download the demo.yaml file, and that will have the code. All you have to do is simply copy and paste that text in the text editor of your choice. So we'll go ahead and paste that text now. So here we have to change just a few things. For your staging bucket, it's going to be S3:// whatever your staging bucket name is. So for us, it's staging.awesomewebsite99.com. And then we're going to do the same thing for the live bucket here, which is just awesomewebsite99.com. Now what we need to do is add our distribution IDs from CloudFront. This tells CodeBuild which CloudFront distributions to clear the cache from. So let's go ahead and navigate over to CloudFront. So for us, we'll do the staging one first. We'll just copy this distribution ID. We're going to go back over to Visual Studio Code, and we're going to replace this staging distro text, including the arrows, with just the distribution ID, and we'll do the same thing for the live site. Once you've pasted your distribution IDs, you can save this and close out of your text editor. Now we need to head over to S3 and create a couple more buckets. So navigate to S3, create a bucket. The first bucket that we're going to create is an artifact bucket. So we can name this something easy like awesome website -artifacts. And then we'll leave all the settings the same, and then we'll just create bucket. And then I personally like to use S3 for my build logs also, so I'm going to go ahead and create a bucket for my build logs. Now we're going to go ahead and create the CI/CD pipeline. So head over to code pipeline. You can type code pipeline in the search bar, select the first option. Select create pipeline. We're going to do build custom pipeline, click next. Pipeline name can be whatever you want it to be, but we'll do awesome website pipeline. You're going to create a new service role. I like to clean up my service role names. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do awesome website pipeline service role. So something like this. And again, it can be whatever you want. Just make sure that you check allow AWS code pipeline to create the service role. We're going to click next. Our source provider is going to be the GitHub app. Now we're going to create a GitHub connection. So go ahead and click connect to GitHub. Give your connection a name. Click connect to GitHub. And if this is the first time that you're doing this, you're going to have to install a new app. Now I've already configured mine, so there is no option to install the AWS connector, but for you, you'll just follow the on-screen prompts and then you'll be directed back to your GitHub connection window. Once you've installed the app, now you can click into this search bar and choose this option and press connect. So now what we want to do before we continue is push all of our website files to the GitHub repo. That way we have a repository to choose and a default branch to choose. So go ahead and navigate back over to your terminal window. Now you're going to type git add with a period. This is going to add all of your website files to the GitHub repo. Now we're going to type git commit, and we're going to give ourselves a commit message of initial commit. We're going to press enter. And now all we have to do is just type git push origin main. Now our website files should be in our GitHub repository. Go ahead and navigate over to your GitHub repository, make sure the files have been pushed. Okay, you can see in my GitHub repository that the website files have been pushed with the initial commit message. Now we can go back to our pipeline, choose our repository, and then choose our default branch, which is main. We're going to leave the output artifact format the same. We're going to disable automatic retry on stage failure, and we're going to press next. For the build stage, we're going to add CodeBuild as our build provider. And now we need to create a CodeBuild project. So click create project. We're going to go ahead and give our project a name, and we're going to start creating the project. Most of these settings can remain the same. The only thing that is important here is to make sure that you create a new service role. And again, I like to clean up my role names just for organization. We're going to continue to scroll down and we're going to use a Buildspec file. And our Buildspec file is simply named buildspec.yml. So I don't use CloudWatch logs for this. I use S3. So remember, we created a log bucket. So select that bucket. And then continue to code pipeline. This will ask you if you are sure you want to leave the site, just press yes. And we can see that we successfully created the CodeBuild project. Now we're going to add environment variables. This will be deploy_env, and it's going to be a value of staging. Everything else can remain the same. I like to uncheck enable automatic retry on stage failure and then just fix my own errors and then retry the stage myself. Go ahead and press next. Here we're going to skip the deployment stage because we're actually going to reconfigure a deployment stage ourselves manually in the code pipeline in just a second. So we'll skip deploy stage. Make sure that all your settings are correct and then create the pipeline. So after just a few moments, you'll see that it's already starting to execute, but we don't want to do that. We want to stop the execution because we're not quite ready to start the pipeline. So just go ahead and press stop execution, stop that action, and then we'll continue. Once we stop the execution of our pipeline, we need to go over to our IAM and make sure that our service role for the pipeline and the code build has the appropriate user permissions to 1, access the S3 bucket, and 2, access CloudFront. So navigate over to IAM, choose the first option, go over to roles. So what we want to change is the policies in the code build service role that you just created a moment ago. We're going to go into the permissions. We're going to add permissions. We're going to attach policies. We're going to search for S3. We're going to give S3 full access, and then the CloudFront, we're going to give CloudFront full access as well. Once those policies have been attached, go ahead and exit out of this and then go back over to code pipeline. So here what we want to do is continue our configuration for the pipeline. So click edit. We're going to scroll down past the build stage and we're going to add a stage. We're going to name this stage deploy. and then we're going to add an action group. This action group is going to be named deploy to staging. The action provider is going to be CodeBuild. We're going to use the build artifact. The project name is going to be the CodeBuild project that we created. We're going to add environment variables again. This will be the same one as we did in the previous window, deploy_env and staging. The output artifact, you can name whatever you want. I just like to use production artifact or prod artifact. And then you're going to click done. The next stage is going to be a manual approval stage. So click add stage. We'll do approval for the stage name. We're going to add an action group. We're going to name it manual approval. The action provider is going to be manual approval. And then here you can add the URL of your staging website. You can add a comment such as check the staging website for errors, and then we'll click done. And then finally, we'll add a deploy to production stage. Name this stage deploy to prod, add stage, and then we'll add an action group here. Deploy to prod. Action provider is going to be CodeBuild once again. The input artifact is going to be this production artifact that we created. Project name is going to be awesome website CodeBuild. The environment variables is going to be deploy_env. This one's going to be production. Again, this tells CodeBuild that we're in the production stage of the commands. So go ahead and deploy our changes now to our live bucket and clear the cache for that distribution. Go ahead and scroll down. This can be final artifact if you want, and click done. Now all we have to do is scroll all the way to the top and press save. Click save again. Okay, so that's it. Hopefully if you've done everything right, your CI/CD pipeline is now set up. So we're gonna go ahead and test and make sure that this is working properly. So go ahead and open a new private window, navigate to your staging website. All right, so now that we're here, we're gonna take a good look at the website. All we're gonna do to test the CI/CD pipeline is just make a small change. So right now it says I'm Alex Brooks, a student and a cloud practitioner. All I'm gonna do is change my name just to make sure that my CI/CD pipeline works before I start really building my website. Okay, let's navigate over to our local directory where all of our website files are at. And what I wanna do, just like we did in video 1, is now open up index.html and make some changes. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna search for any instance of Alex Brooks, and we're gonna name myself John Smith, and we're gonna update all of those instances, and then we're gonna command S, which saves our file, and then we're gonna navigate back over to our terminal window. Now that we're in our terminal window, remember to make sure that you are actually in your root directory, and you can again check this by typing ls, enter, and we can see all of our website files. So we've only made a change to index.html. So all we need to do is type git add index.html. We will type a git commit message, and we'll say updated name in index.html. We're gonna press enter, and then we're gonna git push origin main. Now we see that our changes are being pushed, and we're gonna go over to our CI/CD pipeline and make sure that it is currently running. Okay, so now that we're over at the CI/CD pipeline, we can see that the pipeline has started to execute itself, and we've already gotten past the build and the deploy stage. So now we just need to check for our changes. So we'll click review, and we will navigate over to our staging website. And there we go. We see that the changes have been made. So now what we have to do is go back over, we'll approve this, we'll submit it, and now the CI/CD pipeline will deploy it to the production website. Okay, so now that the CI/CD pipeline is finished, all we need to do now is just double check that our live website is correct. So we'll go ahead and open a new private window. Go to awesomewebsite99.com. There's an error. So let's run through this together. I already know what the problem is because I stopped recording and then I figured it out. So I want to walk you through what I would do in this situation. So just in case you have an error, you can figure out what the problem is and go ahead and fix it. And you might have actually caught this error earlier in the video when I was editing the YAML file. And if you caught it, good for you. But we're gonna basically walk through this together. So basically all we have to do is we're gonna go to CodeBuild and we're going to go to our most recent build run, which is here. We'll go to the download S3 logs. Remember, we put that in our bucket, right? This is why it's so critical to actually enable logs. So we'll open up this log here and we'll see what it says. So I know this is a lot to look at, but what I do is I basically go to the end here and I see here, right here, a fatal error. So it says that the specified bucket does not exist. That means that somewhere, like in my buildspec.yaml, there's a typo, right? Or a syntax issue because, and the reason why I say this is because we already know that the bucket for staging was correct, right? It deployed to the staging bucket, no problem. So we have a typo in our buildspec.yaml. So let's go over to the buildspec.yaml. And so this can happen to you and it's very common, right? I accidentally put awesome Wes B site, right? So I typed this incorrectly. So it's website99.com. Now I'm going to save that and I'm going to go back to the terminal window. I'm going to git add buildspec.yaml, git commit message fixed buildspec.yaml, and then I'm going to git push origin main. So the great news about this whole process of what we just did with the CI/CD pipeline is if we do see an error, we can easily fix that error, push it to the repo, and the changes get automatically pushed for us. So let's hop now over to the CI/CD pipeline and make sure it's executing the new run with those changes. All right, so we're back over to the CI/CD pipeline. We can see it's executing a new run and it's in the build phase now. I'll check back in with you as soon as the entire pipeline is finished, and then we'll go ahead and make sure our changes have been made to the live site. All right, I'm back. My CI/CD pipeline has finished executing, and now what I'll do is I'll make sure that I open a new private window, I navigate over to my website, and make sure that the changes on the live site have been made. And there you go, they have been made. So I'm actually glad that we had this error. We worked through it and checked our build logs. We saw what the error was, we fixed the issue, and now we see that our changes have been made. So what I'm going to do is stop here. I know that it said in part 1 that I'm going to help you change these images and the menu items and a lot of the other advanced features on the HTML website, but this video started to get a little bit long, and as you can see, I'm running out of daylight. It's winter time in the United States, so I don't have a lot of natural light, and I'm definitely not in a professional studio. So I'm going to make a part 3 to this series, and what we're going to do in part 3, now that we have everything set up, is show you how to make these changes to your files and your folders and your images. And obviously when you make those changes, it'll automatically get pushed to the CI/CD pipeline. And so there's not much work after that. Okay guys, that's it for part 2. I apologize that we didn't get to the advanced changes of the HTML website in this video. This video became just a little bit longer than I had hoped, but I promise to deliver part 3 to you in just a few days. So make sure that you subscribe and hit the bell icon so you're notified as soon as that video drops. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns for me in the meantime, you can go over to my website, rotordev.com, and leave me a message there. Or you can just drop a comment down in the comment section below and I'll reply to everybody the best I can. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.